Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of The Complete Works. I am your host, Doug Hess. And if you're joining us for the first time to Complete Works, I'd like to welcome you to this. Now, to give you a little bit of an idea of what we do here on The Complete Works is every week we are looking at a film from a particular actor, actress, composer, director, and we are looking at their film history one film at a time. And this week is no different. This week we're looking at or continuing our series with Nicolas Cage. This week we're looking at the movie Mandy that was released in 2018. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Now, if you'd like to find out some more information about the Complete Works podcast, you can go to film-book.com. Again, that's film-book.com by using the search term The Complete Works. You can also email us at podcast@film-book.com. Again, that's podcast@film-book.com with the Complete Works in the subject line, or you can throw in the subject matter Mandy for this week's episode starring Nicolas Cage. If you like what you hear on this podcast, please hit the subscription button so when we have another edition or another podcast that pops up, it can be automatically sent to wherever you like to have it sent to your phone, your Android, your iPhone, your Android, or you can find us on YouTube as well. So again, welcome, and we're going to be looking again this week at the movie Mandy, starring Nicolas Cage. Now, as we always do with all of our podcasts here on The Complete Works, I like to start off with a little bit of trivia, talk a little bit about what happened with the budget and where the film ended up with. Then we dive right into a overview of the film, and then we'll give you my take on that. So we kind of give you the plot, break down the film for you, and then we ended up with some reviews, mine, and I'll give you some of what other people are saying as well. So let's jump right into this edition of The Complete Works, starring or reviewing the movie Mandy, starring Nicolas Cage. Now, just some trivia on this. The Cheddar Goblin commercial was directed by Chris Casper Kelly, who also directed the Adult Swim short Too Many Cooks in 2014. In terms of this, the weapon forged by Red. Now, Nicolas Cage plays Red. Red is the character's name that Nicolas Cage plays in this film. Was a homage to the legendary metal band Celtic Frost logo. We'll talk a little bit about this in just a minute. The chainsaw fight had to be filmed in one night, which the director described as a straight-up living hell to shoot. Now, the director's trademark panaflares. This is a process of aiming small LED lights into the barrel of the lens to soften or to make the frame look a little milky in terms of that. Now, in September of 2018, during an interview with GQ magazine, Nicolas Cage disclosed that when he first approached the director about being in the film, he wanted to play the role of the cult leader Jeremiah Sand, but Cage said he wanted to play Red instead. Okay, so the director told him that the story was about old age versus youth, and he really didn't think that Nicolas Cage was right to play Red. So there was no guarantees that were made. So we fast forward a year later after the two were talking, and through Elijah Wood, they met again and they started talking about the film. So Nicolas Cage and the director was talking about the film. And this time they explored more in detail the theme of love and loss of love within the film. And they discussed those same themes within their own personal lives. And by this time, everything just seemed to click with the director. And then he totally felt comfortable with Cage playing the character of Red in the film. Okay. One of its procrastinist performance inspiration, only just before shooting started, Cage's 14-year marriage to Alice Kim came to a sudden end. And this is when, Nicolas Cage, he's quoted as saying, "It was a shocker to me. He didn't see it coming, and those feelings had to go somewhere." So he put all those feelings into a performance. And that was an interview with the UK Guardian newspaper, January the 10th, 2018, where Nicolas Cage said that. There were several similarities between Jeremiah Sand and the real life cult leader Charles Manson. Like Sand, Charles Manson was also a failed musician who reportedly took it very personal when his musicianship was insulted. Sand refers to his victims as pigs, as did Manson as his followers. They also took drugs were used before acts of violence. Both Charles Manson's cult group did that, and so did Sand's group in the film. The book Mandy reads early on during the film, so I should just let you know Mandy is Red's wife, title of the movie. So when Mandy opens up the reading the book early in the film, Seekers of the Serpent's Kiss, this is a prop, it's a fake book, but it was actually the name of the musical composition played during the scenes, and it was by the film's composer, Johansen. Johansen. I hope I'm saying that correctly, pronouncing that right. The film's opening song, Starless, by King Crimson, originally appeared on their 1974 album Red, which is also the name of the Nicolas Cage character in this movie, in terms of that. The song Jeremiah Sand plays in the scene where he tries to seduce Mandy is called the Amulet of the Weeping Maze, and it was actually released in real life on the music site Bandcamp, becoming a bestseller on the site shortly after the film came out. It was also a single. Also on the single is a 17-minute track in the style of an interview called My Journey, which details Sand's life and his views of the world and of God, in terms of that. So we also find out that the actor Richard Brake, who plays the chemist in this movie, revealed on Twitter in 2018, I should say in December of 2018, that in an early draft of the script, the Cage Beagle tiger, Lizzie, was a lizard. Brake recounted that when he arrived on set, the director, and I hope I'm saying the director's names correctly, Panis Cosmatus, said, "Oh, by the way, Liz is a tiger now. So he's no longer a lizard, it's a tiger." Okay? Now, the next article that, or a little bit of trivia that I found, is a little bit interesting because I found a couple different meanings in terms of this. So, excuse me. What I mean by that is the number 44 appears on Red's shirt. And in one place that I did a little bit of research, it was likely, they said, a reference to Mark Twain's unfinished novel, The Mysterious Stranger, where a supernatural character called Number 44 appears and uses his supernatural powers to expose the futility of mankind's existence. In another reading that I saw or research, the shirt 44, they said it had two meanings. One is it's a New York Yankees Reggie Jackson shirt. Reggie Jackson, for those that don't know, is famous for hitting 3 straight home runs in Game 6 of the World Series in 1977. Reggie Jackson, also a little trivia there, is known as Mr. October because of that. So the number 44 also refers to the real-life serial killer David Richard Berkowitz. I'm probably not saying that correctly. Known also as the Son of Sam, and the 44 caliber killer is an American serial killer who pleaded guilty to 8 separate shootings attacks that began in New York City during the summer of 1977, and also was known as the Summer of Sam. So a couple of different things in terms of Red has the shirt 44 on, and a couple of different meanings. I'm not 100% sure which one is correct, but I thought that was kind of interesting to throw all those out there. I also would say that Nicolas Cage had a screaming coach named David Zellers, and the director's favorite Nicolas Cage movie is Vampire's Kiss, that was released back in 1988. A couple other things here. This is set in the same year as the director's first film, Beyond the Black Rainbow, and the film is set back in 1983. So, kind of give you a little history on that, and that's the first year or the same year that the director's first film came back out is 1983. Um, the movie is dedicated to the memory of the composer Johan Johansson. 1969 through 2008 was when the composer lived. While the beginning of the film features the standard cast, filmmakers, and the crew credits, the title card does not appear until the 1 hour and 15-minute mark of the film. So just kind of a little trivia in terms of that. And a couple other things. Oh, Eyed Wide Shut reference. Mandy is the name of the escort whose life Tom Cruise saves, and later she saves his in the ritual scene. The director credits Stanley Kubrick as an influence in his work. You also find the body count. The killings that happen in this is 10 in terms of that as well. So, a little bit of trivia in terms of Mandy film. So, the box office, the research that I did that I could find is I found that it was estimated to have a budget of approximately $6 million. The opening weekend here in the United States, which was September the 16th, 2018, it made a total of $225,723 in terms of that. Now, I also found out that the gross in U.S. was about 1.2 million, and the collective worldwide gross was about 1.5. So it didn't really make its $6 million estimated budget back. But again, a little bit of trivia in terms of that. The runtime for this film is 121 minutes in terms of that. So, what is Mandy? What is the Mandy? So, Mandy is a 2018, like I said, it was released in 2018, horror thriller directed by, and again, I hope I'm saying the director's name right, Panos Cosmatos, and was co-written by the director and Aaron Stewart Ahern. Its co-production was in the United States and in Canada. And like I said, the film stars Nicolas Cage along with Richard Brake, Bill Duke, and others. It premiered at the 2018 Sundance Film Festival on January the 19th, but was later theatrically released on September the 14th, 2018 by RLJE Films. And Mandy has been praised for its style and originality. It was also been praised by Nicolas Cage's performance and the director's direction in the film and the action sequences. And I'm going to talk about Nicolas Cage's performance at the end when I do my review in terms of that. So a quick storyline in terms of that is this is, again, takes place in 1983. Red, played by Nicolas Cage, is a lumberjack who lives in a secluded cabin in the woods. His artistic girlfriend, Mandy, spends her day reading fantasy paperbacks. Then one day, she catches the eye of a crazed cult leader who conjures a group of motorcycle riding demons to capture her or kidnap her. And then Red is armed with a crossbow and custom axe and stops at nothing to get her back, leaving a bloody, brutal pile of bodies in the wake. Okay, so that kind of gives you a quick overview of what the movie is. So let's get into the plot. Let's actually talk a little bit about the film here. Okay, so the film, like I said, is in 1983, and it's somewhere in the Shady Mountains in 1983, where Red Miller lives with his girlfriend, artist Mandy Bloom, in a cabin near the lake. Red, he works as a logger, where Mandy has a day job as a cashier at a nearby gas station that's in the woods, and she creates elaborate fantasy art, and Red admires her greatly. They lead a quiet, reclusive life, And there's conversation that leads one to believe or hint that they've both had a complicated past and they've had some hardship in that past as well. Uh, Red, we're not 100% sure, but we're kind of led to believe that Red appears to be a recovering alcoholic. He might be even a possible veteran. And Mandy recounts some of her traumatic childhood experiences in the film. So that kind of gives you an opening setting there. So one day on our way back from work, Mandy walks past a van carrying the children of the New Dawn, who is a hippie cult led by Jeremiah Sand. Sand is struck by Mandy's beauty and orders one of his disciples, Brother Swain, to then kidnap Mandy with the help of the Black Skulls, who is a demon bike gang with the taste for blood and human flesh. Um, so they also have a liquid, highly potent form of LSD that they use as well. Okay. So at night, Swan drives out to the lake and summons the Black Skulls by blowing this mystical horn. After Swan offers them a low-ranking member of the cult as a sacrifice, they break into the couple's house. They subdued both Mandy and Red. Two female members of the cult, Mother Marlin and Sister Lucy, they drug Mandy with some LSD and some venom taken from a giant black wasp before presenting her to Sand. Sand, again, remember he's the cult leader. He's a failed musician. He attempts to seduce Mandy with his folk music, telling her that God has told him to take anything that he wants. Mandy, at that point, basically makes fun of him, ridicules him, leaving him confused and infuriated. Seeking revenge, Sandy then stabs Red, who is is tied and gagged with barbed wire. Then what they do is the cult leader, because he's so upset, he burns Mandy alive in front of Red. So they burn Mandy in front of Red alive. After nothing more than some ashes being remaining of Mandy, Sandy and his cult group leave. As you can imagine, to make this a movie, Red frees himself. He then mourns over Mandy's ashes. He goes inside the house. He falls asleep because he's exhausted and is in shock. Okay. After waking up from a nightmare, he consumes a bottle of vodka. This is where we kind of think that he might be a recovering alcoholic. He finds a bottle that he's hidden and he drinks the vodka. He also uses that vodka to tend to his wounds. And he, as you can imagine, is in pain. He shrieks in agony. He's in disbelief. And he's full of rage. He wants revenge. Somebody has killed his girlfriend that he deeply admires and loves. So the next morning, Red fetches the Reaper, which is his crossbow, and he finds one of his buddies, and his buddy provides him with the freshly crafted arrow and information on this hell-bent devils group, the Black Skulls. According to his buddy, the Black Skulls were drug carriers who turned murderers after they had consumed a bad batch of some LSD. Before Red leaves, his buddy warns him that the odds of him surviving this is poor. He's probably not going to come back. He's not going to make it. But as you can imagine, Red forges on and takes his battle axe and hunts down the bikers. Tracking the gang, he attempts to run down a trailing biker, but is captured in the process. And so at their hideout, Red manages to break free. He kills all the bikers, and he starts searching their hideout. He consumes some of their cocaine that is tainted LSD, causing him to instantly and severely start hallucination. Okay, so Red seeks out a radio tower he envisioned earlier. Red encounters the chemist, and he has a mysterious drug manufacturer who tells him where to find the children of the dawn. At their makeshift wooden church in a quarry, Red kills Brother Swain and Hanker with his axe. Then he goes on and kills some others with his chainsaw. And this is where he has that chainsaw duel. And if you remember when I said that the director said that was one hellish event to have to film, and they were able to film that all, or had to film that all in one evening in terms of that. So he only spares the life of Sister Lucy. Okay, so Red only spares Sister Lucy's life. Traveling in the tunnels beneath the church, Red finds Mother Marilyn and decapitates her. He then finds Sand taunting him by rolling out Mother Marilyn's severed head. Sand begs for mercy, but obviously Red kills him by crushing his skull. He then sets the church on fire and watches Sand's body burn before driving away, where he envisions Mandy on the passenger side of his car, or the seat of his car, while the landscape behind him now appears fantasy and just out of this world, really worldly in terms of that. So that's how the movie, that's kind of a quick recap of the movie. Nicolas Cage. What did I think of Nicolas Cage's performance? I thought it was pretty good. I was actually pretty impressed with Nicolas Cage's presence in the movie Mandy. I thought it really gave or allowed Nicolas Cage to have a one of those performances where it was kind of a fun, he had that kind of like crazy look in his eye that really allowed Nicolas Cage to be the Nicolas Cage that we see in other movies and really experience. And I thought it looked like he was having fun in this movie, even though he was going around with a chainsaw and a crossbow and an axe, killing people. But it looked like it was just a fun movie for Nicolas Cage to make. And I think it actually, we could see that in his performance, that it was just fun, and he really enjoyed what he was doing in that movie. And I think a lot of the other reviews that I was able to find, other people really enjoyed it as well. Most of the different sites that I was able to review and look at, most people were giving Nicolas Cage a very high performance as well, and I found no exception with that either. Now, if you're asking me on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being terrible, 10 being an outstanding performance, where do I think he fit in that scale? I thought Nicolas Cage got a 7 out of 10 on this performance. I thought it was a fun film to watch. Again, it wasn't one of those that was going to make you think. It was a revenge film. It was a film that you pretty much knew what was going to happen throughout the film, but it was also a film that I thought was enjoyable to watch Nicolas Cage perform in, because it was a Nicolas Cage that I think a lot of us know and love in terms of performance. So overall, a 7 out of 10. I thought it was Nicolas Cage did a wonderful job in terms of that. And it was just a fun movie to watch in terms of that, even though a lot of blood and a lot of gore in terms of that. So I want to thank everyone for listening to this episode of The Complete Works. You can find more of my work on film-book.com. Again, that's film-book.com. You can search Doug Hess or The Complete Works. You can also find me on Twitter at HessDoug14. Again, that's HessDoug14. If you are listening to this podcast on iTunes or another podcast service, please rate and review this service. If you're listening to this podcast on the YouTube channel FilmBook Podcast, please like us and like our video, subscribe to our channel, and leave us a comment in the comment section. Tune in next time when I review and analyze the next Nicolas Cage film. I want to thank you for listening, and we'll see you again. Thanks, everyone.